You know what, guys? There's a saying in motorsport, and it goes something along the lines of you can't win the race in the first corner, but you can lose the race in the first corner. I think after Max Verstappen's move around the outside of Oscar Piastri, no less, at turn 1 in Imola, I think after that event, we need to revisit that philosophy. I mean, Max's move around the outside of turn 1 to take the race lead and, as near as makes no difference, take the win off Oscar Piastri was, I mean, it was everything. It was class, it was precise, it was brave, it was quality. Like I'm lost for words. Like it truly was an exceptional overtake. I'm going to get onto the full race analysis, obviously, and the reasons behind why I think Max went for such a move. So look, if you're interested in the full race analysis and the follow on from qualifying and Yuki Tsunoda's crash yesterday, definitely keep watching. Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Martin. I'm a specialist technical coach and mentor for open formula drivers. Now, look, we've got a bit of ground to cover following on from qualifying yesterday and Yuki Tsunoda's crash. Let's give a little bit of context. So those of you that have been following the channel for a while, you know about the 7 technical corners. They are chicanes, hairpins, S's, double apex corners, and your 3 long corners. Here in Imola, we're stacked with chicanes. And I've always been saying, guys, the key to chicanes, it's the first entry curb. If you can get good compliant contact with the inside front tire on the first entry curb, I think you're pretty good. The rest of it thereafter should just be a traction event, avoiding the second curb in that set of chicane. So then Jacques Villeneuve was trackside, pretty much said exactly the same thing. The first entry curb, unloading the inside front. It was the first I've ever heard anyone else speak about it. Now, my thoughts after I saw Yuki Tsunoda's crash at the Villeneuve chicane, where he took the first entry curb, pretty much did exactly what I would have expected him to do. My initial thoughts after that were like, maybe these cars just can't do it. They're too big, they're too stiff, they're too heavy. And the way the car re-landed on the ground and the contact that it gave just unsettled the whole car. A lot of people came out on social media, not particularly YouTube. Again, you guys are good. Everyone's like saying, yeah, how did this work out for you? This wasn't the right way. And I'm like, hang on. Let's just, curiosity and humility. We need to just analyze what happened. Is it the cars? Is it the Red Bull? Or was it Yuki's technique? My hypothesis as I woke up this morning was, I don't think it was Yuki's technique. Or if it was 1 out of 10. It was maybe 10% Yuki. I don't think it was Yuki. I'm laying blame either here at the cars or maybe the Red Bull in particular. Now, Jacques Villeneuve also, if you listen to what he said yesterday, it's on my video yesterday. I recommend you go check it out. But he also said the Red Bull was notably poor on its contact with the first entry curb. So I've got some more information, obviously, after listening to Max and thinking about it more, and Alex Albon on lap 62 and lap 63. So we're going to run through all of that evidence now, and we're going to put it together. So my thoughts are that the cars were just too big, too heavy. Max said something similar, and then we saw Alex Albon. Let's run through these pieces of evidence now together, and you'll get the idea. This is me yesterday, my initial thoughts after Yuki Tsunoda's crash, after taking the first entry curb in the Villeneuve chicane. I don't see that Yuki per se has done anything wrong. This is an interaction that is very unexpected and the car just can't do it. Something to do with the vehicle dynamics of the car in terms of they're so heavy, they're so big, and the suspension travel must be so stiff that they can't do anything other than, just flat road. Like the cars are just too big. It's beyond driver coaching at this point. We're in the realms of vehicle dynamics, and that's why I don't know why that's gone wrong. Like I said yesterday, yes, you want to try the curbs. Yes, they're aggressive, but it's got to be done in a progressive way where you build up that confidence so that in quali, you already know the correct things to do. This is an opportunity for me to learn. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. I can't wait to hear from some of the Red Bull engineers as to what they have to say, maybe Max's opinion. I can't wait to see the analysis of it because this is a missing data point in my breadth of knowledge. Okay, so that was me yesterday as I saw Yuki Tsunoda's crash. Now, I was thinking that along the lines of the vehicle, and I'm looking at it through the lens of the Red Bull guys. Why could that Red Bull not ride that curb? Anyway, Yuki Tsunoda didn't give me any insight, neither the Red Bull engineers. The guy who gave me the insight, Maximilian Verstappen. Let's have a listen to what he had to say in the press conference about these cars.
Especially, it depends also a bit on the cars, right? Because I do think the cars that we have now, they just don't really work that nicely on a street circuit, unfortunately. They're way too big, too stiff, too heavy. So they don't, I would say they don't really come alive compared to like 2016 even. I know the lap times were a lot slower, but at least there I felt like on a street circuit, the car was still coming alive a bit. You could take some curbs and yeah, it was working. Now everything just feels a bit dull.
Max Verstappen, they're saying the cars are too big, too stiff, too heavy. And again, now Max is looking through the lens of the Red Bull. Keep this in mind. I'm looking through the lens of Yuki Tsunoda's crash, saying the car, maybe it's the generation of car, this era of car. Max also looking through the lens of his Red Bull, saying they can't do it, right? Now, I think that was close, but not quite correct. I think that I'm now starting to align with Jacques Villeneuve, saying that it's more got to do with the Red Bull more than it necessarily has to do with this generation of car. My philosophy has always been the first entry curb is the way to go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Now, a bit more context. Alex Albon yesterday was really struggling with the curbs, and he was more taking he was avoiding the entry curb, and he was taking more of the exit curb. And I was saying in the video yesterday, Alex, that's not the way to do it. And I'm going to show you the difference between Saturday and Sunday. Alex Albon, same car, same driver, everything the same chicanes, everything the same. Let's have a look now. So I'm going to bring up Alex in practice. Have a look at the clumsy experience and the uncomfortable ride that Alex got in practice. We're going to compare that to the race. Okay, so this is the Tamburello chicane. He's kind of only just taken the first part and then was greedy on the second part, and a really uncomfortable experience. There it is again. And here's a slow-mo of that. Again, this is the exit curb, which I'm saying, you want to put your foot down on the egg. You want to get out of the chicane at this point. It's not the time to be taking shortcuts through the chicane. And the Williams doesn't ride it that well. There was also an example there just at the end of P1 where I thought Alex did a better job of riding the second part of the chicane. But again, he missed the first part completely. And I'm there saying, hang on, Alex, like you've got to clean this up. It's the first entry curb is the way to go. Now that you've seen that, have a look at lap 62 and lap 63. Have a look at Alex's technique, what's changed, and the way the Williams rides the curbs. First entry curb, bang, connects in beautifully. He misses the second part. You see that, guys? Here's a slow-mo. Connects in lovely with that curb. And now it's all just straight line traction, easy as she likes, just miss the second part. That's a difference in what we just saw yesterday, the video I just played you. Have a look at the Villeneuve chicane as well, where Yuki crashed. Big armful of steering lock at the entry curb. Lovely. Look at how compliant, look at the space and entry position he's got against Lewis here, and how beautiful that entry is. And here's another shot a lap later. Sorry, this is lap 63 now. Have a look at the way Alex takes this entry curb. Lovely. And then he avoids this one. Beautiful. Not hard, possible and not hard. So where does that leave us, guys? So this is the struggle now between drivers and engineers, and I fall under the drivers category with driver coach. Yuki should be saying, guys, this car cannot ride chicanes the way I want it to ride. And then, for example, you can imagine how that dynamic would be in an engineering meeting room, for example. Then you might have me in there saying, guys, we need to square this up. Everything Yuki's done has been fine. The first entry curb is the way to go. Take it from me. That's where the lap time is. We need to set this car up to be able to ride the first entry curb exactly as you just saw that final video with Alex Albon. And then you can imagine the engineer saying, well, we can't because that's going to affect our high speed. If we make the car more compliant over the curbs, we can, but it's going to affect us in the high speed tracks like Belgium, for example. You'll be caned. where it is all about that stability and high speed. Imagine Puon with a soft car, for example. Not going to happen. So the Red Bull typically as well, I think, has gone in that direction. It's always been a machine around those tracks, and it's struggled at the Monacos and those sort of tracks, maybe the Canadas as well. And Imola, it's been okay because Max has been able to get away with it. But I think now at this juncture, it's case closed for me. I don't think Yuki did heaps wrong yesterday in qualifying. My lens was more on the era of car or potentially the Red Bull. Me and Max both thinking about the era of car, but now seeing Alex Albon do it successfully, exactly like to the T of what I would be recommending. I'm now got my scopes firmly on the Red Bull. Like that's not a car that can ride chicanes. That's a weakness of the 2025 Red Bull. Now, just given that it took Alex, I mean, credit for Alex for being curious, trying it, working it out and problem solving and getting good results today. But this is where I think the value of the driver coach can really add in Formula One. Because again, if I was working with anyone in Formula One, that would be my recommendation. Alex wouldn't just be doing that in the race on Sunday, having worked that out or fluked it or he would have had that clear direction from someone straight away. Like, Alex, this is the direction we're going to go in this weekend. If we can try these chicanes, try these entry curbs, get the car hooked up, like, you're going to have a beautiful weekend. And we would have gone down that path from the get-go across all of the drivers and the Red Bulls and Ferraris and whatever, because that's my philosophies of one of the 7 technical corners. Again, I just want to show you how beautiful and compliant this car was. Like, just watch it. There you go. Beautiful. It's exactly, that's all I'm asking of a Formula One car to be able to do. It's beautiful. You see Hamilton, they're actually riding the second part of that. I just want to go back there because I hadn't seen that before. Lewis Hamilton, touching the first part, he was riding the second part. Have a look at this, the difference in technique. Alex here, and then Hamilton, watch him. It's Leclerc, sorry, in front. It's Leclerc. So Leclerc grabbing an armful of the second part, and that's not the way to do it. Let's have a look at Leclerc here. Yeah, he goes around that part. But Alex's technique here, look at this, lovely. Look at the space here. If I just pause here, look at where Alex is and the speed that he can carry into the second part of this Villeneuve chicane from this position. Leclerc can't do that in front because he's way too tight. And that's the advantage of taking some of the first entry curb. So look, I wanted to, give you guys all of that information. And like I say, I think that's case closed for now. Now, the other thing I wanted to say, and I didn't mention it, I had it on my notes yesterday for qualifying, but it slipped my mind. I forgot to mention it. 2024 lap times versus what we had in Q3 yesterday. A massive question mark there. You've got very similar lap times. And in some cases, like the Ferraris, they went backwards by 7/10 or something from 2024 to 2023. Let me show you on the screen together now. And this was 2024. So Max got pole on a 14.7, Piastri a 14.8, Norris a 14.8, Leclerc a 14.9. That's a solid lap time. And then Carlos there on a 15.2. So I guess my call out is Max 14.7 pole and Leclerc 14.9 in a Ferrari. Let's juxtapose that now against what we got in this year yesterday. Your pole lap from Oscar Piastri was a 14.6. That's only a 10th quicker than what we did last year. Max Verstappen did the same time, a 14.7. And then Leclerc, who was, 14.8 or 14.9, here he is on a 15.6. What? Like, someone, I don't have an explanation for this. Someone needs to give me a hand and explain this for me. I haven't been thinking about this overnight. I've been thinking all about the chicanes and what happened with the Yuki and the car and the vehicle dynamics and so on. Someone in the comments, give me a hand as to why. I mean, was it the C6, but then we had the C5? Was it conditions looked pretty good out there? It was 20 degrees and sunny. We've had a year of development on these cars. So the only thing I'm thinking as I think out loud now, it's because maybe, I'm just thinking out loud at this point and I haven't thought about it. What we're testing in Imola is the car's ability to ride curbs. Has that improved? Probably not. The cars have probably gotten stiffer and lower and, they may be added downforce in absolute terms, but haven't necessarily worked on the car's compliance and ability to ride curbs, which is the key to all the lap time in Imola. That's my first thoughts, but someone more qualified than me can educate me in the comments. Okay, now that we're up to date, let's start to talk about the race and the start. Now, look, as Oscar Piastri was getting in that McLaren on the pole, I just couldn't help but feel he's under pressure. I just thought the occasion, it's a beautiful day in Imola. He's on pole. He's got the clear track. There's fans breathing down your neck. It's 20 degrees. It's sunny. Max Verstappen, the shark there in P2 next to you. I just thought it was a pressure. I just felt I could feel the pressure through Oscar Piastri's eyes. Now, he actually got a good launch. Don't blame Oscar for his launch. I thought that the initial launch wouldn't be so good from that side of the grid. Remember, all the guys are tearing down the grid slots 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, cleaning that side of the grid. That's Max's side of the grid. I thought Max would just get him off the launch. As it turns out, they both got pretty reasonable launches. I'd argue Oscar's was slightly better than Max's, and George behind was in Oscar's slipstream, so he was cruising up there as well. And what did we see? Something very uncharacteristic, a very soft, a very conservative Oscar Piastri approach into turn one. That's on one side of the coin. And then we saw a very aggressive, a very committed, a very determined Max Verstappen braking super late. And he just wrapped up Oscar Piastri beautifully at turn one. Now, I've got some thoughts as to why. I'm not sure actually why Oscar would go in so soft, but I've got some thoughts as to why Max would go in so hard. You've got to think about it from his position, right? He's behind in the championship. The McLaren is ostensibly the quickest car. If he doesn't do something at turn one, and it's Oscar Piastri who he's competing with this year for this championship at this point, if he doesn't do something at turn one, well, you're looking at a points loss of 7 points, because if Oscar keeps the lead, he's probably not looking back, right? He's probably going to take the flag. So Max is thinking, either we crash and that's 7 points like that I would have otherwise lost, which now I haven't lost. So that's a positive. And if I take the lead, well, best case scenario, I take the lead. That's, if I could try to get into Max's head and give you an idea as to why he would have been so aggressive, it's probably because it was Oscar and he's the championship protagonist. That's why I think Max went for it. And wasn't it a beautiful move? Like, he just timed it perfectly. It had class written all over it. Oscar had a chance as well to potentially throw Max off, or at least absorb some of the space on the entry, on the entry to mid corner there at turn one. He chose not to. He was very passive, very conservative, and he lost the lead of that race. And then from there, Max was peerless, like off into the distance. Broke DRS very quickly, had pace as well. Like, it was a quality drive from Max, but we're going to get onto all of those details later. But that was the start. I just wanted to mention also, this is normally one of Oscar Piastri's strengths. We're talking about Monza, second chicane around the outside of Lando Norris. And at that time we said, well, Lando, super conservative into the second chicane, swallowed up by Oscar. Oscar's clinically precise overtake on Charles Leclerc in Baku last year was a great example of Oscar's racecraft. I'd be interested to hear after the race why he, did he misread the marker boards? Did he not practice this? That's the other thing, guys. You'd be surprised at how valuable it is to actually practice this. Like, if you get a chance in practice session to do a practice start, you're not just practicing your start. You're actually practicing, well, if I start from this position and drive to turn one, where's my new braking point? Because the braking point that you normally get lap after lap after lap after lap, let's say, for example, is at the 100 board. But then starting from that start position, you're not tearing down the pitch straight at 300 kilometers per hour. You haven't got all the downforce. The brakes and the tires aren't up to temperature. You need a new braking point into turn one. Not sure whether Oscar had the opportunity to do his homework and try to find that new braking point. It could well be at the 100. Normally it is at the same place, because you've got competing factors there. Yes, you're going slower and everything's not up to temperature and so on. But because you're going slower, you can brake later. But because you're carrying all that fuel and the hard tires and whatever, and everything's not up temperature, then you would have to brake earlier. So that generally evens itself out, and you end up probably braking at a similar point. But sometimes it could be later, sometimes it might need to be earlier as well. And I'm not sure whether Oscar did that homework. So it's very important. That's another check that I wanted to call out on the channel, is like, that's another tip I can give, is it's important to practice not just the launch, but refine that new breaking point into turn one as well. That's very important. Okay, so let's talk about the early laps of the race. Now, it was pretty much Lando Norris starting to attack George Russell P4 against P3. And this was very insightful for me because this was the first on-track battle that we were having, which gives you an indication as to how difficult it's going to be to pass. That's the most important thing and my most important takeaway from the battle. Now, Lando was attacking George, and it wasn't that straightforward. I think on lap 10, he started to go for the inside into the Villeneuve chicane. And on lap 9, I think he had an opportunity around the outside in the Villeneuve chicane. So he was not sure inside or outside. And I think in his head, he wanted to go for the inside, but George was always covering the inside quite well. So it actually left Lando no option but to go for the outside. And I think it would have worked because you can wrap up George on the outside of the Villeneuve, and then you've got the inside for the second part. So it took Lando 2 or 3 laps to work that out. But again, my biggest insight was, it's possible to pass, but it might cost you a lap or two. It's not like the first time you open DRS, you're going to blow past. Like, that's possible as well. At some tracks, that's a thing. On other tracks, even with DRS, it's impossible to pass, like we had at Suzuka. And on this track, I think it was somewhere in the middle. It was like, yes, it was possible. We saw a lot of overtakes, but there was a few cases where it wasn't on the first or second pull of the trigger of DRS. And that was my insight. That was like, I speak about this channel. I speak about the overtake delta on this channel a lot. And the overtake delta is how much quicker do you need to be than the car in front in order to overtake them. That's very important because if you make a pit stop, that's exactly what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to cut through these cars very quickly. Number one, not lose any time. Number two, not destroy your tires. Number three. So what did McLaren do on lap 14? They pit Oscar Piastri for a 2-stop. But that's when I knew, like, that's a bad call. He comes out behind Yuki Tsunoda on the hard tires, Ollie Behrman on the hard tires. These are guys that are not planning on pitting anytime soon. And then you've just taken Oscar out of a P2 position, put him in, like, I don't know, 15th or something, behind guys on hard compound tires, of which he's going to take maybe a lap or two each to cut through and just destroy his tires in the process. That's the first example of poor McLaren strategy. That destroyed Oscar's race. Like, they took him out of a good situation. Now, Oscar came on the radio and said, look, guys, plan A is a little bit ambitious, assuming plan A was the 1-stop. I didn't hear Oscar say we need to pit. That's a very different radio call. But he did say plan A was ambitious, thinking maybe he had a little bit of graining. But it was either that or the pit stop was worse. So I think just putting up with the pain of the tire wear would have been the way to go because they just dropped him in a bunch of traffic. Now, the other guys that pitted early was George and Carlos on lap 12. Again, as soon as you take those guys out of the top situation and put them behind all of the other cars, like lap 12 is very early. There's no gap, no safe place to drop out into. That was bad. Fernando Alonso pits on lap 13. Oscar Piastri pits on lap 14. All those guys, you never see them again. So it was only 14 laps into the race when Oscar lost the lead at turn 1 and pitted, and his race was done. In a 63-lap race, they'd managed to blow it after 14 laps. So that was McLaren strategy and race operations, seizing defeat from the jaws of victory each and every single time. Like, yeah, that was bad. Now, speaking about McLaren strategy, that wasn't the only bad call. Lap 29, they pit Lando Norris. Remember, he stayed out across all that graining phase and so on. They pit him on lap 29, but why? Unless your tire is about to just explode or there's a pressing reason that you need to pit. He wasn't in any sort of undercut territory against Max Verstappen. They pit Lando on lap 29. What happens on lap 30? A VSC comes out. And so all the guys that didn't pit, that's Max, who didn't pit, the guys that started on the hards, Hamilton, Antonelli, Albon, who didn't pit as well. It just suits all these guys. These guys have got like a half-price discounted pit stop at this point. That's your second blunder from McLaren strategy, just pitting Lando Norris for no particular reason. Again, unless he's about to die out there, like there was no need to pit him. All you got to do is just copy Max, like just follow him and see what he does. So they blew it. Now, Oscar Piastri, we said, pitted on lap 14. what's he going to do from there? Go to the end of the race? Probably not. So they've got to pit him again, right? So when this VSC comes out on lap 30, they didn't actually pit him in the first instance on the first lap. And I'm here thinking, guys, this is your chance to pit Oscar and go to the end. Like, you're either going to take it, or let's say this VSC ends, you're going to have to pit him anyway. You might as well pit Oscar. So on the second lap around onto the VSC, luckily and finally, they bring Oscar into the pits. So they blew it with pitting him on lap 14. They blew it with Lando pitting him one lap before the SC. And then I think they blew it again when the full safety car came out for Kimi Antonelli on lap 43. So what did they do? They left Oscar out to take P2 and they pit Lando in P3. Now you've got a situation where your lead car, as McLaren, Team McLaren, your lead car is on the old scrubby tires, and Lando in P3 is on the new tires but can't do anything with it. What they should have done, I think, was the reverse. Leave Lando out to take the lead of the race. Again, they don't seem to be able to prioritize to put that McLaren in free air. Like, it's a weapon of a car. Just let that thing run free and off the hook. If you just put Lando in the lead, okay, sure, he's got 16 lap older tires or whatever at that point. But do you see that how long that safety car stayed out for? Then you put him there. And then if they had have pitted Oscar Piastri, I think he would have been P3 or P4. But on a new set, now you've got Max Verstappen sandwiched. You've got Lando up front leading the race on the older set. You've got Oscar P3 or P4 on the new set. Max in the middle on the new set. Like, if Max gets past Lando, then probably Oscar can just wave, they can just wave Oscar through. Now Oscar can start to have a crack at Max again. So, like, that's where I think, again, McLaren, that was their third mistake of the race. I wanted to talk about the restart as well, because it was all class by Max Verstappen. We spoke about this on the live stream, and we said, we always talk about turn one, lap one, what's going to happen there. And we all talk about the restart as well. If you are the lead car and you do get an opportunity to control the restart, what do you do? When do you go? Max nailed it perfectly. It was absolute class. We said that he needs to go into the final Ravazza and start to attack that corner and accelerate through the Ravazza and get on throttle earlier before anyone else. Remember, Max turns into Ravazza and then opens the steering wheel. He's the first one with the opportunity to go. Then Lando's got to, I think it was Oscar, sorry, has to turn through the Ravazza, open the steering wheel, and then go. So it would have been silly for Max to go through the Ravazza slowly and then accelerate down the pit straight, because there's no advantage. So by Max going through the tighter corner and then accelerating, he was the first one to get to full throttle. He actually pulled out like a 1.2 second lead on the first lap, and then it was 2.5. He broke DRS like super quickly. And if you haven't got an eye for that and you just saw the restart, you probably wouldn't think much of it. You'd be like, oh, they're underway and they're racing again. But for the discerning eye amongst you, that was a quality restart from Max Verstappen and noteworthy. So finally, we then had the McLaren battle, which was always going to come. We had Lando on the better tires, Oscar on the worst tires. I think this was very mature from Oscar Piastri just to let Lando go. I think he did put an extra armful of steering lock in just to avoid Lando coming around the outside. And it would have been very easy for Oscar to be frustrated. Remember, he got wrapped up by Max Verstappen turn one, lap one. They put him on this SH1T strategy a few times, pitting him on lap 14, not giving him the new tires at the end as well. He would have been frustrated. I'm sure when we hear from him, he will be very frustrated. So it would have been easy for him to fight and compete with Lando and try to salvage his race. I think to get P3 and like damage limitation settings was mature from Oscar. That's what a champion would and should do, is like just say, okay, like, you know what? I'll take the podium. I'll see you guys in Monaco and try again there. So I think that was good from Oscar from the championship, and from his mental side, I think that speaks to his mentality. But look, you can't be, you got the McLaren on pole. You can't be finishing P3, right? If you're fighting for a championship. Max is like, if you give Max an inch, he will take a mile. And so I think that was a lesson for Oscar. I think he'll be down on himself. I think he'll be hard on himself after turn one, lap one. But look, a podium is okay. It's not the end of the world. Like, take the lessons and move on. I think that interaction between Lando and Oscar at the end down at turn one in Tamburello was a mature move from Oscar Piastri. Okay, so looking ahead, we've got Monaco coming up. It's my favorite Grand Prix. I'm going to show you guys the back of my helmet as well, which has a beautiful picture of Monaco painted on the harbour. Why is it my favorite track? Driver's track, obviously. And I just think building up, one of my philosophies about building up the weekend and it being very important, particularly for all the rookies out there. I think that's going to hold true more than ever this weekend. And I just feel like even if there's no passing or no overtaking, the winner of the Monaco GP has just done an amazing job across the whole weekend and 72 laps to keep the car out of the barrier. So really looking forward to my favorite track. And I'm going to have 2 live streams for that weekend as well. We're going to do a preview show as per normal on Thursday. And then we're going to do a pre-race, just Q&A catch up, just you guys and me. We can just talk about quali and you guys can ask a few questions and we can just have a discussion, like an informal chat together before the race. So thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, share the video, smash it as much as possible to try to help the channel move forward, as I know you guys always do to help me. I hope you learned something from it. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.